Hello everyone, my name is Mr. B and welcome back to another video. So if you probably have noticed, we are at the business end when it comes to Umamusume content. I'm not talking about game content, gaming content for global, there's so much to go. Even JP, there's so much to explore still. But when it comes to anime and manga, we're kind of running out of it. And that might sound crazy when you think about the anime and mangas that are available right now for Umamusume, but when you think about it, the series started back in 2016 and really started going in 2021, and a lot of the content is post 2021, post season 2. And so there's not really a lot when you think about it. I also forgot that we're only like less than 5 years into the game's original release. And that's crazy because when you see the amount of stuff that they have, the quality of stuff that they have, you think they've been doing this for 10 years, but no, even if you include the season 1, it's been less than 10 years. But with Umamusume Cinderella Gray second call about to approach its end, and the manga also about to end in a few chapters at the time I'm recording this, we are going to be left with pretty much little to no other Umamusume content that is available. There is Star Blossom that focuses on Sakura Laurel and her journey to the Arc de Triomphe, and that is a pretty good manga, but that is being slowly translated by fan translators. And aside from that, there's really no other mangas or potential stories that Umamusume has at least publicly announced that is going to be available for us in the future. And so for us Umamusume fans, we are left wanting more. When you look at horse racing history, there's so much more stuff that they could explore that they haven't even explored already. They probably have explored in the game, but they haven't really explored it to its full potential, like in terms of manga and anime, something like Beginning of the Era or like Cinderella Gray. They haven't really explored it in that vein yet. Now, I am not a horse racing fan, so I don't know much about the history of horse racing, but I do know a bit and I do know enough for me to go, okay, some of these stories are going to be pretty great for Umamusume, for Cygames to adapt as a series or a manga or whatever it is, but I would love for them to explore some of these eras. So this video is going to be me recommending Cygames. Hi Cygames, if you're watching this, hello, by the way, very big fan. And so for this video is for me to recommend 3 different eras that Cygames could look into exploring, especially once Cinderella Gray is ended, because then it's only Star Blossom left. And so having another manga or 2 or a new anime or 2 might, help boost the game a bit, especially in global where people just really want more Umamusume. I myself included. Now, I would like to preface this by saying that I am not a horse racing expert. I don't know anything about horse racing other than from the stuff that I've watched on YouTube. And also, some of these recommendations are not my own recommendations. Some of these are like popular recommendations from fans and everything. I'm just capitalizing on it and making it to a video. That's just how YouTube works. I'm just going to preface by saying that I am not going to be the first person to recommend this. So I am no way by claiming like, oh yeah, I recommended this. No, some of these are like very popular fan recommendations. And with all that disclaimer out of the way, here are some 3 different eras that I think Cygames could look into exploring in the future and expand more on the Umamusume universe.
The ace in front, Bedtime trying to pick it up. Petsaroot, the ace in front, and Petsaroot, the ace is going to last the win from Bedtime, Symboli, Rudolph.
The first one, and is the reason why I wanted to make this video in the first place, is the 1983 to 1985 era. And the reason why this era is significant and I think is going to be really worth adapting is, one, this will be oldest in canon, making this the perfect start, especially if you want to start chronologically in terms of years. And number 2, this particular era will be covering 3 different characters in particular: Katsuragi Ace and 2 different Triple Crown winners in Mr. CB and Symboli Rudolph. So not only are you getting 2 Triple Crown winners in this particular era that they could explore, but you're also going to see a horse that is able to go toe-to-toe and sometimes even stand above these 2 Triple Crown winners. And when you think about it, that sounds very interesting. That sounds very shonen. That sounds like the perfect successor almost to Cinderella Gray, which also has that shonen aspect in themes. So I am a bit biased towards this era, and for me personally, as a fan, I really want this era because, number 1, Rudolph was my favorite character in the mainline series, and up until Kita-san Black replaced her, she was like the character that I really loved the most in Umamusume. And Mr. CB is currently my favorite character in Umamusume. Like, I have a figure of her here. She's the only Umamusume figure that I have. I have some plastic models of like Teo, Suzuka, and Special Week that I haven't built yet, but she's the only like figure that I have. Well, not figure, it's a figure arts, but still, she's the only figure that I have. And Katsuragi Ace also is pretty damn cool. Like, have you seen her in the game? She's pretty damn cool. And so this era for me is going to be very biased, and a lot of people actually really want to see this era, especially I think a few weeks ago at the time we were recording this, there was like a boom of like people just learning about the 1983 to 1985 era, and people just really loving Katsuragi Ace. Katsuragi Ace's stock just blew up massively over time, and I think making it into a manga kind of makes sense. Katsuragi Ace's story almost mimics that of Ogre Cap, but differently, because she has a rival in Mr. CB and actually has been able to beat Mr. CB a few times and is Mr. CB's like biggest rival. Despite Mr. CB being a Triple Crown winner, Katsuragi Ace managed to stay toe-to-toe with her. Or him, I guess. And having to that also that she raced in both Rudolph and CB in the Japan Cup makes it for a very, very interesting story. And I think a story that side games could probably adapt really well. A lot of people are asking for a Rudolph story already because we want to see her story and how she became like this top Umamusume. And yes, I do know that Star Blossom are doing the Triple Crown exploration with Narita Bryan. I know that they're doing it quite well from what I've read so far. But I think a lot of people want to see Rudolph because she's such a prominent character in Umamusume as like the character. And having like Mr. CB, who's quite unknown in terms of global already, as this like wild card Joker character would be really interesting. Katsuragi Ace is just a shonen protagonist, just from the stuff that I read. She's the shonen protagonist, and also it would be very interesting to see Marzensky's perspective. Marzensky is like the oldest character that we have in Umamusume. She's from the 70s era, I believe. And so in Cinderella Gray, for example, you see like Rudolph, CB, and Marzensky like overlooking the horses, right? But at this point in time, it will only just be Marzensky. So what is her thoughts on the whole situation and this almost golden era of Japanese horse racing? And I think that's what makes this era really interesting and why a lot of people really want this era, because it has so much potential for storytelling. And so having like a manga adaptation of this era, something similar to what they're doing with Cinderella Gray, maybe by the same author, I don't know, maybe a different author, so long as it has that shonen feel to it, I think this era, this particular story, could be very, very well received. And considering how well received Cinderella Gray is because of its shonen aspects and because of its characters, I think they could make it really, really well with this era, and it's something that I and a lot of fans hope that this would be the next one to explore in the series. The second era, and this is a fairly common one, and it's not really an era, well, kinda is, but it's exploring the rivalry between Vodka and Daiwa Scarlet. Now, this is a story that a lot of fans have been wanting since the game first released back in JP. It's a story about Vodka and Daiwa Scarlet, and while these two characters are 2-star characters in the game, their real-life counterparts are fucking insane. Like, they're really, really strong, especially when you consider the fact that they're mares that have raced against, I think stallions is the male horses. Yeah, I'm just gonna call it stallions. Mares that race against stallions. And traditionally, mares, they have raced against stallions, but haven't really had much success. But these two sort of broke that stereotype and really shone above a lot of horses in that era, and their rivalry is very, very big in Japanese horse racing. Having a story about two top fillies battling it out in the mid-2000s era sounds like the perfect movie for side games to explore. You have Vodka, who is a 7-time G1 winner, tied with characters like Symbol Rudolph, Kita-san Black, and TM Opera O for having the most, up until Almond I came, that is. Adding to the fact that she was also the first filly to win the Japanese Derby in 64 years, already makes her a really good main character. But not only that, Daiwa Scarlet also never finished below second in all of her races. She won 4 G1 races, and she also raced in the Arima Kinen. These two horses are absolutely insane in real life, and so having a story, having a movie adapted about them would be insane. These two are also very popular fan characters as well, both in JP and global. And side games, I think, should definitely look into exploring a story with them in probably a movie form. I think manga might work well, but movie would be very, very interesting, because compared to like the mainline series, for example, their rivalry is much more intertwined with each other. Like Special Wing and Suzuka didn't really have that much in common. Kita-san Black and Satono Diamond didn't really have that much interaction in real life, actually. And so having Vodka and Daiwa Scarlet makes them the best dual main character that the series probably has to offer. And sure, it might be difficult to adapt, but if anyone can adapt the story, it'll be Cygames. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. Well, I'm definitely sure that I'm not the only one that wants this to be adapted in like an anime movie form. Like, come on, having Vodka lifting her hand up in anime movie form, that's so cool. Like, Cygames, please, I'm begging you, please adapt this one. Please adapt this rivalry. The third one is kind of my own recommendation, and it might be out there and I don't really know much about this, but hear me out. The third recommendation is exploring the career and the story of Hoko Tarumae. So a lot of people in global probably not know who Hoko Tarumae is. Actually, I don't even know who Hoko Tarumae is. Throughout Umamusume, they've explored mostly turf races. That's been their bread and butter. For dirt races, they've touched a bit in Cinderella Gray, but they haven't really explored it fully yet. They haven't really explored it to its full potential. So I want them to give some dirt races some love. And what better character for that than Hoko Tarumae? And the reason for that is because Smart Falcon is very dominant. Smart Falcon is a very dominant, and there's really no other contender for Smart Falcon to face against. And so Hoko Tarumae is sort of like in that different generation where there's a lot more competition, and she's also not as dominant as Smart Falcon. At least from what I've read in Wikipedia, she's not as dominant as Smart Falcon was. He has 17 wins, but half of those come under the NRA instead of the JRA, which is much more of a local based thing. I don't know if it's similar to what Ogre Cap first experienced, but assuming it's different, then it would be very interesting for Cygames or Umamusume to explore a different organization from the URA. And that's one. And then there's also her rivalries. Her biggest rivalry is that with Espoir City, and there's also rivalries with Wonder Cute and Kopanoriki later down her career. And three of these characters are established enough in JP, but none of us really know anything about them. So you have a chance to also explore brand new characters. Compared to something like Star Blossom, yes, Sakura Laurel is new, and we're going to see them adapt Bubblegum Fellow, pretty much unknown in global, but they've also have characters like Marvelous Sunday, Minor Top Gun, and obviously Naruto Brian, who are very well known, especially Top Gun and Brian are well known in global already, so you have that familiarity. Whereas for Hoko Tarumae's career, you don't have that familiarity, which makes it an interesting set of characters to explore, especially from the global side. From JP side, I'm not know, because these characters might be very popular in JP, I don't know. But from a global perspective, I think their story would be very interesting. Now, I will say, I don't know much about Hoko Tarumae in terms of her career and everything, considering my knowledge only comes from her voices and how she acts. I don't know if she could be the main character. But that being said, I didn't know if Ogre could be the main character when I first played Umamusume. But then you have Cinderella Gray, which completely changes her character and makes her the main character for a shonen manga. And I think probably they could do the same with Hoko Tarumae or perhaps any other dirt racer out there. I personally want Cygames to explore some dirt races because I think they deserve some love, and I chose Hoko Tarumae because from what I've read, her career sounds interesting. She's also part of the Legend Changer music, so she's definitely a very, very strong, popular horse. And also her in-game model is cute. Like, I mean, she's very cute. I just want Hoko Tarumae to be adapted. I just want dirt races, man. Come on, Cygames. Give us some dirt races. But anyway, these are my 3 recommendations of eras, potential stories that Cygames could explore. There are so many stories out there that I'm sure everyone has their pick of like their favorite story that they could adapt. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter so long as Cygames take their time and they make sure that the series they're adapting, the story that they're showing, has the same feel and flair as their other series throughout their franchise. Because that's what we love about Umamusume, is the fact that it's very different from other sports anime and that it has that flair, that feel of an Umamusume story that a lot of us has fallen in love with. But anyway guys, that's it for this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want to see more, and leave a comment also down below what particular eras that you want Umamusume to explore in the future. But anyway guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.